some hate it. They won't like my opinion. They say it's overrated. And choose 1 through 10, or it's A to Z. You good on any list, long as it come from me. This is a disclaimer and not a guarantee. My highly rated opinion make perfect sense to me. It's the perfect sense. The perfect sense. My highly rated opinion make perfect sense to me.
Welcome back, people, right here to Perfect Sense. I'm your host, of course, Twan, and I want to welcome you once again in 2024, brought to you right here on Frisbee TV. This is Perfect Sense, people, sponsored by Billion Brothers. But I want you guys to like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel, to this content. I want you to all support me. And look for me on each platform, Mr. Perfect Sense. If you guys can actually find me on the platforms, that would be great. We're gonna get things started. We're gonna have a beautiful year. This year is gonna be different. It's gonna be way, 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 way different. So I wanna talk to you guys because you guys know that, or if you don't know, you're gonna know now. Anybody that's coming here for the first time, people who have been here already, that I do fragrances. We also do reviews, but fragrances is my hobby. So in my likeness for the fragrances, I'm gonna give you guys some tips, some tricks, some things that you can use on this channel to actually up your fragrance experience and to be, I don't know, if you wanna say a fragranceologist, whatever you wanna say it is, if you wanna be your own fragrance person, then guess what? To make it more beautiful for you, I'm gonna help and support you in that endeavor. So we're gonna get right into it right now. I'm just gonna do a little bit of education on fragrances. So when I got into fragrances, because I love the composition of the one that I sprayed. The very first fragrance that I remember was my dad's fragrance, was Brut. It was kind of harsh. I was a little kid, but you know what? That started my journey because when I smelled it, I was just like, oh man, it's something different. It has a little bit more of that alcohol to it, but when it got down to it, when you start to sweat, when you start to work, it becomes a signature scent and things like that. So, here, unfortunately, I don't wear Brut because I don't like it. But as a kid, that's what started my journey. So we can go right into what's some important things to know about fragrances. So number one, I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, this fragrance is bad, this fragrance is good, the opening blast, what you get. So you really can't judge a fragrance on its opening blast. You have an opening, a mid, and a dry down. And those things have longevity, right? So whether it be linear fragrance, meaning that the fragrance smells the same all the way through. So linear means that it doesn't change from the original composition. So when you hear somebody say linear, that means it's going in a straight line. That means it tells no lies. It gives you what it needs when it needs to give it to you. So what you see is what you get with that fragrance. Then you hear people say the different classes of fragrance, the Eau de Cologne, the EDT, the EDP, the Parfum, or the Extrat de Parfum. So they're different oil concentrations. The Eau de Cologne is by far the weakest concentration of oil that you can have. And sometimes it may seem like none. So they're pretty safe, I would say, to spray on skin because they have a more higher alcohol content without ruining clothes. Some people are a little more sensitive to alcohol, but just beware of where you spray Eau de Cologne. And just remember that you're gonna have to reapply that cologne over and over again, because Eau de Cologne is really, really something soft, something safe for the office, something you don't want to offend nobody, but just make sure it has a good composition. So we're going to move right into the Eau de Tolilette. So the Eau de Tolilette, I believe, can be up to 5 to 10% oil concentration, but the Eau de Tolilette to me is something that you may have to respray also, but it could potentially be a monster, but you will get the alcohol blast from an Eau de Tolilette. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get the alcohol blast from the Eau de Tolilette. And to be honest with you, knowing what I know, from the Eau de Tolilette to the Eau de Parfum, the composition of the fragrance smells a little different. So you may get the same mid and dry down, but you won't get the same opening from the Eau de Tolilette to the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum is a higher concentration of oil from the Eau de Tolilette. So the Eau de Parfum gives you more of the fragrance profile, a little bit less of the alcohol blast, but you can still get the alcohol blast. But it's The loudness of some of them fragrances, when you move from the Eau de Tolilette to the Eau de Parfum, sometimes the loudness comes down and the Eau de Parfum becomes smooth. So it's like the difference of having something that's very, very strong and maybe offensive in the beginning to having something that's, okay, dialed back and a little smooth. So a more refined version of the Eau de Tolilette. And there may be nuances in the Eau de Parfum that are different from the Eau de Tolilette. Now, you're gonna move up to the Parfum. Parfum, by far, is one of the smoothest versions of a fragrance. So if we wanna take, for example, look at the difference between the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum of Bleu de Chanel. So if you take Bleu de Chanel, for example, I like the Eau de Parfum. It smells good. It smells sexy. It smells clean. It has, to me, a very, it is a blue fragrance, but it has a sexy quality, a date night quality. But like any Bleu de Chanel, it's still soft. It doesn't have a real loud scent profile. Now, if you take the Eau de Parfum and compare it to the Parfum version is a lot smoother. It's grown, it's sexy, it's a higher oil concentration. So there, you want to step up or step out of the alcohol blast. That's how you do it. You do it. You can look up the different variations of the Eau de Tolilette, Eau de Cologne, Eau de Tolilette, Eau de Parfum, and Parfum. And then you have another one called the Extrat de Parfum, which can be 50%, oil, which is crazy, right? So you get the better scent profile, you get the longevity, you get the loudness, but what you also get is the ability to stain your clothes. So I'm telling you right now, make it something safe to spray on skin, watch the color of it. But if you want something to smell great, if you want to last long, you want it to be super sexy and smooth, get you a nice cologne that has an Extrat de Parfum. Now, some of the Extrat de Parfums are just a bit ridiculous. They've ramped these things up real high. I've smelled some Extrat de Parfums that I particularly don't like. And I know a lot of people, they have like their little nuances about, what they like and what they don't like, but I'm gonna give you one, and I may receive a lot of flack for this, but I don't like Ganymede. I don't like the Extrat de Parfum for Ganymede. I bought it, I held on to it, and I sold it. I had to let that one go. So it was a catch and release for me. And I'm gonna tell you why. It was real vegetal. It had a lot of that basil or cumin quality, actually. I believe it was cumin quality. The spice in it was way too strong for me. So the original Ganymede smells nice. It's a masterpiece. It's a work of art. But that Extrat de Parfum was just too powerful. It for me anyway. It may not be for you, but it was too powerful. So when you hear somebody or when you walk into a store and they talking about an EDT, EDP, different variations of what this fragrance is, just remember in mind, you want to step out of the alcohol blast, and each time you go from T to P to Parfum, you're stepping further out of that blast and getting a little more smoother product with a higher concentration of oil. And of course, it's gonna cost you just a little bit more money, but you can find all these things on sale. You don't have to pay full price. It's just about patience. All right, so we're gonna move on to something else that a lot of people really don't talk about, but they do talk about. And the reason being is, I hear some people saying in some of the fragrance communities that I look at or that I frequent about maceration. So maceration, I didn't even think was real when I first started because I knew nothing about maceration. I didn't have enough time in the game. Maceration comes with time. So it's like a fine wine. It has to be aged. It's like your brandy. It's in a barrel. It's like some scotch. You just do it on the Eastleigh Island and you just have to macerate this thing, meaning that you have to give it time. All right. So the first thing you do in maceration is you suck out that air. Psst, psst, give it a couple sprays. Put the cap on it and let that thing sit. Put it in a dark space. Give it time. If you don't like it now, if there's something in that scent profile that's extra powering, overly strong, or you're just real sensitive to, before you let that bird fly, put that bird in the cage, put a cloth over the cage, and let that bird free in a few and see how that bird takes to you. Whether it may be good for you, it may not be good for you. So I'll give you an example of something that macerated really well here in the studio. So I left a couple of these bottles here just because they weren't really to my liking and everything. And I have a couple of Carolina Herrera fragrances at home, but there's two of the Maison Alhambra Carolina Herrera fragrances behind me. And I'm gonna tell you, they macerated beautifully. I came in today and I smelled them and I said, oh, I gotta do this education video because maceration is real. And I think the one is exclusive to back and exclusive saffron. And when I tell you those things were beautiful, when I sprayed them in the air, the longevity in the air, the scent trail. You hear people say scent trail. Here we go with another word. Of course, that's self-explanatory. That's when you're walking or you're in a room and you leave, and that air behind you that kicks up has that scent, has staying power, had a great atomizer. You know, the atomizer is what you spray. So it's that little nozzle that gets the juice to you. So you can have a weak atomizer, you can have a good atomizer. Some atomizers are under pressure and they just continuously spray. So be careful with the atomizer and watch where you're directing that atomizer at, because I've actually, as a newbie, sprayed myself in the eye. But anyway, that's another thing. You wanna look at the design of your bottles. We wanna also talk about storage of fragrances. It is important that you store your fragrances properly. There's a thing going around where people are saying that you should store your fragrances in the refrigerator, you should store your fragrances in the dark room, you should store it. I'm gonna tell you what I do. I'm not gonna tell you what's right or what's wrong because I'm not a chemist. I can't tell you, but you can potentially increase the shelf life of your fragrances if you keep them under 75 degrees. So I would say don't go too cold. You don't wanna be below 40. Because you want to refrigerate them, the most important ones, but you don't want to be below 40. I would say if you could pull them out and put them into a room that's temperature and climate controlled, 55 to 65 degrees is ideal for your fragrances. So between that 55 to 65, it's ideal for humans too, because I like it a little colder in my house. My wife likes it a little warmer. So we have a balance there. So she cranks the heat up, I open the window. I open that window right on up. It almost got me choked up. But what you have to do is you have to store these fragrances and you want to put them in a dark place. You don't want the light to penetrate the bottle, because what that does, that heats up the oils inside, changes the composition. You got to remember that your fragrances are chemically sound. They're put together, they're blended in a certain fashion, they have certain concentrations, and this is the way that they're engineered. Now, if you decide to introduce contraction and expansion into, oh, I'm letting sunlight hit my bottles and it's 85 degrees in the house, of course, that thing is gonna create gases that is gonna change the composition of that fragrance. And that fragrance also should not be stored in the bathroom. A lot of people store theirs in the bathroom, you know, right in the medicine cabinet, and that's fine. But you're gonna kill your fragrances, because one thing I know about the bathroom, it is not a really, really climate controlled environment. If you have a vent in your bathroom, it's gonna get hot. If you have, I mean, most bathrooms don't even have windows. So if you don't have a window in your bathroom, that's a good thing. But if you do have a window in your bathroom, that light's gonna shine in, it's gonna hit your fragrance. So it's one of the most uncontrolled environments. If you take hot showers, you are raising the temperature in the area. Your glass is gonna get frosted. You're gonna introduce all kinds of things into your fragrance. So right now, in the beginning stages of your fragrance journey or in the latter stages of your fragrance journey, store your fragrances correctly, know what you're buying when you go, know what concentration you want. And I say, man, that's the education that I can offer you at this time on fragrances. Like I said before, like, comment, share, and subscribe my content. Bring you more soon. So keep me in mind, you know? So right here on Frisbee TV, Mr. Perfect Sense. I want you to stay blessed, be less stressed, and let God do the rest. Peace.
Sound of this beat is so profound to me. It's so soulfully sold, so undoubtedly. He gave me the shoulders to put the world on him. Yeah, my kids on this rock, man, so I can hold them. God gave me these eyes so I can see the vision. Equip me with all the right tools so I can win it. Keep fasting and praying. Now that's the key. Put your feet in the sand and take a walk with me. Highly blessed and highly favored, and some are hated. They won't like my opinion. They say it's overrated. And choose 1 through 10, or it's A to Z. You good on any list. long as it come from me. This is a disclaimer and not a guarantee. My highly rated opinion make perfect sense to me. It's the perfect sense, the perfect sense. My highly rated opinion make perfect sense to me.